All right. It looks like we're live streamed. Great. Great. Thanks so much, Kat, for your hosting abilities. Welcome to our final CCRC meeting for the year. I was realizing that this is going to be Kat's last meeting, Barbie's last meeting, Jane's last meeting, probably Alma's last meeting. And then it's Curtis's first meeting. So, um, maybe in that vein, we could all go around and introduce ourselves since Curtis is new. Um, I'm happy to start. Curtis, my name is Alyssa Kumis. I was the CCR chair this year. It's my second year on the Climate Crisis Response Committee, and I have two kids at Sunnyside Environmental School. America, do you want to go next since I see you that way?
Sure. So my name's America, and I'm gonna have two kids at Ainsworth next year. And this is my first year, and I'll be going on to the second year, hopefully.
Anybody else, just feel free to jump in.
I'm Shannon Adams. This is my first year. I am planning to move on to the second year. I have one daughter at Oregon State and a son who's just about ready to graduate from Benson Polytech.
Hi there, I'm Jane Comalt, and I have been on the Climate Crisis Response Committee since it started. So this is my fourth year. And so, yeah, I'm terming out this year. I think it's my fourth year. Anyway, okay, thanks, Kat. And I have a child at Beverly Cleary and one at Grant High. And I'll pass it to Murtaza.
Murtaza Batla. This has been my first year on the committee. I'm a parent of kids and Marvel.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. And then we have hopefully a few more people that you'll get to meet, hopefully our student representatives as well, since we have two of them on the committee. Before we jump into the agenda, and maybe Murtaza and Kat can chime in too. We had the PPS board meeting last night where we shared our annual report, kind of like a summary of our recommendations and what we found this year. Unfortunately, we were pushed back, and I don't think we went on until 9:45. And those poor school board directors were there, I don't know, probably past 10 at least, maybe even 11, I'm sure.
If anyone wants to go look for this section of it, I can send it out afterwards as well. But we were time stamped at 3 hours, 28 minutes. The whole thing is over 5 hours long. So that just so that you can know where to like find it in the video, but just for some perspective, we're a little sleepy today. But yeah, I'll put that timestamp in the chat just in case anyone who's watching at home wants to go check it out. It's the May 12th board meeting.
Yeah, I felt like for being that late, I felt like the board of directors was very attentive. I will say that it seemed like it was news to many of them that Kat's position isn't being renewed or has been reduced or eliminated. So that definitely, it was very sweet to hear all the wonderful words for Kat. And I don't know, I was kind of hoping maybe they could work some magic and see if we can keep Kat keep Kat around. But it was great just to hear their thoughts about what Kat has done over the past 4 years at PPS for really pushing this climate policy to the forefront. So, yeah, I don't know if anybody has anything else that they want to share about it. Oh yeah.
That pretty much covered it. Yeah, it felt to me that it didn't seem like the board was aware of the elimination of Cat's position, and they were shocked and disappointed by that because they all expressed how much of a help and what great work she's done.
Yeah, which was like so wonderful to hear. And yeah. yeah, it definitely turned into a little of a goodbye gushing for Kat, which is exactly what she deserves. And hopefully there's, I don't know, something that can be done. Um, Eddie Wong, our board liaison, seemed very willing to have us come back as often as we want to, and I thought that can be part of our discussion around the AI recommendations today. Um, but now let's go backwards in time. Thank you, Jane, for your question. So Curtis, you didn't get to introduce yourself. So would you mind introducing yourself so everybody knows who you are? Sorry about that.
Of course, that's all right. My internet's been a little buggy. But hi, everyone. My name is Curtis Leonard. I started at PPS May 4th, and I am the new Senior Manager of Energy and Sustainability. And I'm really excited to be here with you all. I'm new to Portland. I moved here for this job because I was so excited about the opportunity. And I was previously working in Colorado at another school district where I was implementing energy and sustainability initiatives. And I'm really excited to be here. Aaron Pressberg, who was the person who was in this role before myself, is someone that I've kind of like looked up to at conferences. So it's very exciting to get the chance to be implementing this work. And I have some family in Corvallis, so I'm really excited to be in the state of Oregon and be in Portland and working with awesome citizen committees like y'all. So it's a real honor to be here, and I'm excited to partner with you all going forward.
We're so glad you're here, Curtis. One of our challenges this year was not having your position filled, so it's wonderful that you're here and that we get to connect with you before the end of the school year.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure.
I just want to share a really quick little story plug, which is that at the Green Schools Conference this year, I was actually able to attend a really cool workshop that Curtis hosted around just like deep, like understanding different ways that like different spheres of influence and community and communication and action can happen around just lots of kind of navigating different ways of making action happen in a system. Anyways, so it was just cool. I was just wanted to provide a quick plug of like really excited to have Curtis join PPS. I think it's going to be a really wonderful fresh start and fit for this work, and we get to work together really closely over the next couple weeks to just download as much as we can. And I've expressed that you all are a fabulous group to get to work with and connect with as just like movers and shakers in this area. So you're in a good spot here, Curtis.
Thank you so much, Kat. That was very kind.
Good to have you, Curtis. And Barbie was able to join us. Barbie, we were just introducing ourselves since Curtis is new to PPS. We can't hear you.
Hi, Curtis. I'm Barbie Alexander. I'm the Economic Opportunities and Compliance Lead on the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program. I work for WashDOT, but I represent all four agencies, TriMet, ODOT, CTRAN, and WashDOT. And I have been serving on the committee since it began. And I served as chair last year. And this is my final meeting. I'm not going to cry. And I feel like there's going to be a hole and I may lurk. So if you have one person watching, maybe two, Kat and I. No, I'm just kidding. But definitely invested. Really love the work that I have seen Kat build. She has put her heart, her soul, her energy, her expertise, and really what she is incredibly talented and well versed at doing, which is translating policy into tangible actions and strategies and specific tactics that result in measurable change in the community. And that's what I have really been really in awe and inspired to be a part of. Thanks, Kat.
Agreed. Thanks, Barbie. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Barbie.
Hey.
This is great.
I am sad it's your last meeting too, Barbie. But yeah, public comment. We can just get you all in at the beginning of each meeting. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get our, send a request to share my screen. All right. Let's see.
Is it working?
I think it is. Let's see what we can do. I just need to get it onto slideshow. There we go. All right. Welcome, everyone. So here's our agenda. Welcome and intros. I'm guessing we don't have a public comment, Kat. Nope. All right. We have our student update and our staff update, like always. We don't have a student on right now, so maybe we'll push that until we hear from Alma. And work on a staff update next. And then what I have on our agenda is to discuss the AI recommendations that the AI work group from the CCRC came up with to make sure we feel good about them, to discuss like what our next steps will be with these recommendations, and then also to talk about CCRC planning for next year and to discuss our priorities. I think moving into next year, losing Kat, losing Jane and Barbie, I think it'll be really valuable for us to just have a discussion about what our priorities are and what we think how we want to set ourselves up for success next year. Is there anything else anybody wanted to add to this agenda before I move forward? All right. So Curtis, this might be for your benefit mostly, but here are the duties of the CCRC as laid out by the climate policy. Our duties are to receive regular reports and data from district staff. It sounds like that'll be you moving forward. To understand about the implementation of the policy and also the impact on frontline communities. To determine whether the status and implementation are consistent with identified goals, and then also for us to share findings with the board. You might be familiar at this point in your time at PPS, but here are the overarching objectives of the policy. Our emission reductions, our two objectives are emission reductions, engagement, resilience, and wellness, and then the three pillars that you are probably becoming more and more familiar with. So we'll skip the student update, and I don't know what you have prepared, Kat, but anything you want to update us on, or Curtis, both of you, take it away.
I didn't put anything in the slide because my main update was going to be introducing Curtis, and so I'll toss it over to him in just a moment to talk about some things that we've been chatting about in terms of just like keeping some work moving forward. I will say it's been a little busy, but been on my list to get the Climate Crisis Response Committee applications open. So I don't have it quite open yet or posted, but my goal is to get it open next Monday. And so I'll share that format with all of you if you can share it with folks that you know in the community, and we'll just kind of get that out. And I would love any feedback on how long an application. I was thinking from next Monday, which is the 17th, 18th, ish, until like the end of May is probably plenty of time to get it out there. But I also know it's a busy time for folks, so just wanted to get a sense from you all if you have any feelings either way about timeline for that. Yeah, the goal I'm hoping is to get applications out there, closed, and have the board members that will be reviewing them review them in June before the end of the fiscal year, so we can kind of get those folks noticed and have Curtis start working with them over the summer before to be able to launch the committee off stronger and earlier next year. Shannon.
Yes. How many positions will we be looking for?
Such a good question. So, the terms are 2 years, and folks can renew for an additional term after they've completed their first term. So um, Jane and Barbie have now served their maximum 2 terms, having started when I did 4 years ago. And Alyssa is just finished her first term and intends to stay again as long as everyone, we're good with that. And then for the student terms are 1 year. So short answer, 2 adult terms available, and then potentially 2 student positions as well. So,
Thank you. No, that
yeah.
sounds, the timeline you're proposing sounds good for that, in my opinion, for that number of people.
Yeah, in the past, we've gotten anywhere between like a handful of applications to like 50. So it's just like I think it just totally depends on like how well we can get it out there that it's available. So that's gonna be a big push over the next couple weeks, but I think doable. So yeah. Yeah, where does it?
Is there any thought to allow for increased student participation on the committee?
I think that's a great question, and I've been curious about that myself because I think it says at least 2 student representatives, and we always get a lot of student applications. Um, so, um, so that's part of why have just this doesn't have any explicit language written, but we've been kind of limiting the student terms to 2 terms as well. So they're 1 year terms just to allow for more students to get the opportunity to be on the board. And there's some benefit of allowing like some students to stay on and help bring on the next student. So I don't know officially. Speaking of which, oh my gosh, there's Alma. Hi, sorry, bringing Alma onto the panelist space. So excited you're joining us. Um, sorry, again, late night. You were there. Mutaz was there late night, so not being terribly concise. I don't know officially if there's a limitation or not to that. So I would be curious if there is.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could bring more on, just because they are very engaged, especially these days. And it'd be nice for them to feel they have more of a buy-in in the process if we are allowing more of their voices.
I 100% agree.
Kat, do you remember the language in the policy? Is it capped at 12 people in the committee, or do you remember?
It's actually nine people.
What
But
did I say when I say 12?
it's
Where
fun,
did my
no
brain
worries.
go?
You're
Is it
all
capped at
good.
9?
And let me bring up the charter. This is a good time to review the committee charter. Oh geez, file management. I think it specifies 9 members, including at least 2 student representatives. So continue discussion. I will update when I have it available somewhere more easily to find. One moment.
I think that would be wonderful if we could get more student voice into the committee. While you're doing that, maybe we'll have Alma introduce themselves. Hi, Alma. Sorry to put you on the spot when you took a bite. Alma, we have Curtis here who is new to his role at PPS. So we were just introducing ourselves.
Alma, I'm a junior at Cleveland. I am the co-president of my school's climate club, and this is my second year on the committee.
That was the perfect, thank you, Alma. Amount of time because I was able to find the charter while you were talking. It says no more than 9 members who made up a majority of members who identify as a person of color and 2 members who are currently PPS students. So it doesn't say at least 2 members, but it doesn't say at most 2 members. So I don't know. Yeah, Shannon, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry not to drag this one topic out too much. Is there any way we can challenge what is written to include like 3 students? or 8 adults and 3 students. I really, I mean, as I mentioned in the chat, I really agree that more student participation would be highly beneficial.
Well, the whole thing is up for review, right? So that's something that we could change when we review it.
I don't know how the review process works, but I think Eddie will be or Director Wong will be a great resource in that. But I do believe how it would likely work would be that the committee would work with the staff liaison to make recommendations to the policy committee on what changes would be made. And I, having been doing this work, firmly agree that more adult and student members would be excellent. So, and if you had to pick, more student members would be priority, I would say. Especially if there's possible to bring in like middle school members too. I think that'd be really cool. Not that we it's not excluded, but when there's only 2 positions available, trying to like making sure that, anyways, whole thing, but opportunities there.
That's great. I've added it to our little running list of things that we've discussed around the policy review. So thanks for that suggestion. That's great.
And Alma, to fill you in, we discussed my intention is to get the um, applications for committee members out on Monday and then have that just be open until the end of May, with the hope of working with our board members who are selected to help review applications, go through that process, and get some recommended candidates notified of their selection by the end of June. So that way I can just help like kind of hand off that process and that transition for Curtis, who will be our new staff liaison for the committee. So that's my ambitious timeline dream. So we'll see.
I'm done, right? Because this is my second year.
Yes, technically, I think we discussed 2 years being the max limit for students, but would love to also discuss what it looks like if you are interested in continuing to be involved in ways. So
Okay.
yeah. Oh, I'm still doing a staff update. Hi. So um that was my big update for you all. Um the the other, yeah, I think the other thing is just making sure, I think Curtis and I wanted to do a quick update around kind of where we're at with like the decarbonization work. And I also showed him the draft dashboard and stuff today, that we're just kind of waiting for leadership to let us know what their plan is on it. So yeah.
And the one thing that I can add is that I have a meeting on Monday with the software team behind the decarbonization dashboard. So that is to say, while I'm like trying to wrap my head around everything that is happening in the energy and sustainability and the climate justice world here at PPS, I'm hoping, I'm a big like data visualization dork. So I'm very excited about having a dashboard or some way to communicate this outwardly. And I know that is something I've been informed that is something that you all are very passionate about. And so I just want you all to know that our goals are aligned, and I'm hoping that I can make some progress on them. And we'll continue to share updates as they arise. Yes, Alyssa?
Awesome. Just to clarify, I guess both Kat and Curtis's. So, Kat, when you were talking about the draft dashboard, are you talking about the policy, the public climate policy public dashboard?
Yeah, sorry. We actually ran into this earlier too. So there's like 3 different dashboards actually. So we actually have a utility dashboard for one that's like now back up and running, which is exciting. We also have the kind of decarbonization roadmap, not quite public facing dashboard, but is something that can be like shared as a tool, a visualization tool. And then we have the climate crisis response policy objectives dashboard. And that's the one I was talking about. And I showed it I had to complete my version of it back in like October, November. So I shared my screen and showed highlighted what it was going to look like a couple months ago. And just I think with everything going on, that initiative hasn't progressed at the leadership level. So that's the one I was referring to specifically of the three. And then there's also, of course, the student projects dashboard. We got lots of dashboards. But the initiatives one around specific policy scopes is what I was talking about, hoping to get some kind of answer and information for you all around a timeline for that to be rolled out. Yeah, just before before I leave as well.
And
So I have
thank
a
you
couple
for
things on
that.
my list of stuff I want to circle back with you on.
And I was going to just say I apologize because I was speaking about the decarbonization roadmap. But again, I'm getting all of my passwords, all of my logins, and we're on day 8 for me personally. So we're working on it.
We get it. It's always the word soup that you're trying to like hone in on and acronyms and everything. So no worries, Curtis. Thank you. That's why it's helpful to clarify for, I think, for myself too. So it's great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I introduced the topic as both things too. So there we go. Just making it all sorts of confusing, which is great. Keeps us sharp having to clarify. So yeah, I think I'm going to keep it there for the staff update in case others have other specific questions. Because I think the priorities discussion is going to be really fruitful and helpful for kind of guiding the work moving forward and how we can support you all wrapping up the end of the school year.
Great. Thank you both. Alma, we had on our agenda a student update. Do you have anything you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I can do a really quick one. So it is like test season and finals and IB and AP and everything. So student climate engagement has slowed down. But we had the student showcase of all the PSEF projects, and the student survey closed. We got over 300 responses this year, which is very exciting. More than we got last year by about 30 responses. So that's very exciting, but it is a lot of data to analyze. And as someone who has limited time and limited data analysis skills, I think that analyzing that data could be a really good group project for the CCRC. And then for my student climate club, last night we hosted a event with the Portland Fruit Tree Project, specifically Catherine Howard. And she was amazing. We all got to make our little mason bee houses. And then we also had a lot of like decoration stuff, which is what kids really got into. Like painting the houses and stuff like that. And like learning about mason bees, and everybody got to go home with like some mason bees, which was fun. It was a lower turnout than we were hoping for because again, it's like test season, everybody's ready for the end of the year. Nobody wants to come to an event after school. But we had about 15 people, so it was a nice small group. But we definitely learned our lesson about holding events in May. And then, yeah, the PSEF projects are wrapping up, and students will have probably zero engagement over the summer. So we're pretty much done with student climate action in schools for this year. But yeah.
That's awesome. I will say at the board meeting last night, there were many board directors that commented about the PSEF, the showcase, and then like how blown away they were, which was really awesome. So I'm sad I missed it. I'm going to put it on my calendar for next year. With regard to the survey, I mean, I think our CCRC's recommendation last year was that the survey is institutionalized, and I wonder what capacity there is within PPS to support the analysis of the data and how we can make this something that's not like constantly a volunteer process, but really feels like it's housed within PPS. Like, what do you think, Kat?
Capacity for data analysis from our evaluations team is pretty low, just because so our data in one moment. Our data evaluator who's kind of left on the team, it has office hours and is available to help support in like working with folks to do data analysis. And so I can reach out to see what their capacity is to support some of this. But in terms of leading the work, I think that is a team of, I could be wrong. I think it's a team of one now. So I just want to be really respectful of their capacity. But I do think that that is a really good point, and that there should be some, I think that would ideally allow for some continuity, and also just making sure that the sensitivity of working with student data remains just like really carefully processed and kept. So yeah, I'll reach out to them and see what availability there is, because we got the go ahead to send it out as like an institutionalized thing, but but yeah, the actual processing of it is a whole nother beast. Yeah, Barbie.
Thanks, Kat. I was just gonna say, making sure that that the students are meeting with the incoming students and doing an onboarding so that they understand that they're now taking it over, developing it, and it's so that that framework is in place. And then also, what about reaching out to the AI team and having them help with a little data analysis? And then I also heard loud and clear, Curtis, like me, like Kat, we're data nerds, right? I think Curtis, yeah, I saw a little bit of that action. I think maybe Curtis might be able to help. And big, huge kudos. Building is building. 30 more is over 10% increase, and year over year growth. That's huge. You haven't had a loss. You've had nothing but a gain. So give yourself a huge pat on the back. That is just amazing. But reach out to the AI team. I bet a lot of that are going to be common themes. And Curtis can help shepherd that and mentor that. And at the same time, doing that onboarding, handing over, but that institutionalized framework of making sure that the new incoming students are taking it over and taking that lift of the analyzation and implementation trade-off so that it's not so much of a weight on you.
I'm going to step in really quick and just share that Curtis is taking on 3 different roles in one right now. And so I'm going to protect his scope a little bit and share that I will support making sure that there's some great touch points and that there's a clear process for how to keep the work going, that he could really help shepherd with the new climate committee. But we're going to welcome him to PPS with a respect for his capacity. So I appreciate the idea, though. And I definitely think that having the energy and sustainability and the climate justice team kind of house that the survey data and kind of the processes and the accountability for the processes, it's definitely a really good call for sure.
I feel like I could find you a volunteer too, but I am going to take at least 1 month off. So, right.
Yeah, Jane, you have your hand raised. And then Alma.
I was just going to, like, I hesitate to bring this up because like I'm here as an advocate, and I'm just thinking on the other side of a coin, of the survey coin, is what happens with that info. And I don't mean this in any way to disparage the survey work. I love it. I think it's very important, and especially surfacing student voice. My worry is over time that it's might feel disheartening for students that have shared their ideas and input if there is no action that follows through on it. And I don't want to add to any like climate anxiety or other feelings in that realm. And so I'm just floating that as a, like, I wonder if how we can try and mitigate that from happening, and like it's not up to us to like implement any of these things, but do our best to bring the survey and what, you know, those results and what students are saying to decision makers to just keep emphasizing the importance of this work.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree, Jane. I would say that, like, as a student, just having an outlet to like write my thoughts down and like just feeling like there is someone who put in the work to develop this survey and to get it to me, and I have the opportunity to fill it out. I do think, like, in and of itself, even if no action comes from it, is better than nothing because it's an outlet. And then in terms of like doing stuff with the data, I absolutely agree that I think if we're going to put out the survey, we have a responsibility to do something with it. Even if it's just like make a couple graphs and share the information, like to do something with it, and not just have it sit in an archive, which is part of why I really want to get more people engaged in analyzing it. Because last year I was just going through the results and I'm like, I don't know what do I do with this? And then the other thing is that last year I was able to, a couple students had like specific concerns, and I was able to actually email them about it. And I think that's a really good way to like make a connection. None of them emailed me back, but I hope they read it. And then what I was going to say to what Barbie said is that the student survey has already been developed, so we don't need students, like maybe next year students will want to make a couple tweaks, but like we don't need it to be edited. And I think students should be involved because a big idea of it is like to have it like survey for students by students, but they don't need to, I don't think students need to be the main ones involved. In fact, I think it'll be more effective if adults are the main ones involved, because like we're only here for 4 years in high school and only on the committee for 1 or 2. And I think if we have adults who are more in charge of it or take more ownership of it, it'll be more effective. So in terms of like onboarding next year's students, I can absolutely have a conversation with them, but I do think there should be adults involved. Yeah, that's everything I was gonna say.
If I can jump in really quick. I think asking the question of what's going to happen with this data is the most important question we should always ask of any survey. And something I really appreciated about Alma and Leah's approach to developing this survey was like the consistent, like, what is this getting at? What is this going to be used for? What, like, this is interesting, but like, why are we asking this question? And it was like every question. And that process happened last year as well with Tessa, and then just got even more iterative and this year. And so I think that the resulting questions and answers are super helpful for the sustainability and climate justice team to be able to actually see like what is the most effective way of reaching students, what are their biggest concerns, and then one of the things that we really got from it last year is like, oh, nobody has heard about the work that is going on. They don't know about the climate project opportunities. And so that helped guide like, oh, how can we put the most energy into these areas that are missing? And then it'll be really, really cool to be able to see year over year our climate literacy goals and actions and our climate work making a difference as those middle schoolers who've started to get involved with the climate projects, go into high school, and we start to see how, ideally, in a couple years, we should start to see the survey results reflect all of the work that is being done to just like make this even more part of the PPS ecosystem. So I just wanted to give massive kudos for the amount of work that in like thoughtfulness that was put into the questions, and the intention of like trying to keep the questions as consistent as possible year over year to actually be able to see trends in data. So I really appreciate that question, Jane, because I think that we should consistently be asking like that question, especially when we're dealing with reductions. And I think that that being said, I still think um, that it's something that should be consistently elevated, and the data should be translated in a way that the student representatives could then get onboarded to use that data to then like provide more advice and contribute contribute, oh my gosh, words today, more in a more informed way with the committee, and then also like help to lead more advocacy kind of efforts using that broader kind of data set. So yeah, that was just from the staff perspective. I know there's a bunch of hands up, so I'll mute now.
No, thanks for that, Kat. Yeah, Barbie, you want to jump in?
I just wanted to say that I think that you are spot on, Alma, but I don't think you should sell yourself short. The work that you did as a student was incredibly pivotal. Yes, of course, adults, we're always watching from the sidelines, but you moved the work. You remember all the iterations, remember all the going through, crafting the questions, the thought that you put into it, the way that you really thought about the way that the students were going to be responding to those questions, and putting that out there and responding back. There's learning that was really pivotal. And I think that each year students should have that opportunity, not necessarily to change all the questions. That wasn't necessarily what I meant, but as a review. Because there may be an opportunity because of current events or some catastrophic thing we can't foresee, that it may be critical to add a question. Like based on based on these reductions, or something that is very timely, but otherwise keeping the questions the same. And also, I think it's important to recognize that push-pull, that by starting the survey, you're doing an element of education just by that exposure. That by asking the questions, students begin to think about things that they may not have comprehended, or been exposed to things that they hadn't. So there are a lot of nested elements within the survey that I think are coming out further. So thank you. I don't want to take up enough air.
Thanks, Barbie. Yeah, I agree. Alma and Tess did such an amazing job creating it, and Leah's support this year. I had like a few thoughts. So first of all, I mean, I'm so happy to help with that data analysis. So just know that like you can tap us for sure to support that. And I particularly would be happy to work on that. And I hear you. I think that's why I made the suggestion about PPS owning it a little bit more, because I think they should. I think that should be what we asked for. But I'm wondering about if the CCRC is going to be kind of the adult kind of overseers of it. The timing of the survey is tricky because it's like you're saying, it's like in April, and then May comes and students are busy and we're wrapping up. Is there any, like, I'm just quickly want to get people's thoughts. We have like 4 minutes before I'd like to move us on, but would it be possible to do the student survey in like March leading up to April? And then maybe we have the results and think about how students are engaged during, Earth Month. I feel like the timing it always feels crunchy, or has felt crunchy these last 2 years.
Yeah, I think that we were thinking Earth Month would have like opportunities to promote the survey, but it is also pretty tight with the end of the year. And yeah, but I don't think like it wasn't like, oh, it has to be April.
So maybe that's something that could be discussed. I totally hear like Barbie's suggestion about some sort of like handoff. And Alma, I know you're going to be busy, but I think if there's any time to sort of download your brain, because you own so much of the dissemination, I know with you trying to like email so many different people, and maybe there's a like a little Google document that has your sort of best practices and how you manage the survey this year, and then we can I don't know if there's an opportunity for like a kind of climate awareness student survey group that's not necessarily the CCRC student reps, but it's like includes you if you wanted to stay on for another year and kind of help out with that transition. But it seems like it would be nice to make sure that this continues into the future. So if you have any feelings about that, I think it would be wonderful to make sure it continues.
Yeah, I have a best practices for student surveys document. It's pretty generalized, but that I made last summer when I was interning with Kat. And I can definitely make it more specific and talk about the specific strategies I've used. But yeah, I would be happy to do that.
Great, then maybe we could put it in the CCRC folder. Great. All right, thanks so much, Alma. That's exciting. And make sure to tap all of us. Maybe you could just send us all an email when you want to support around the analysis of the data. All right, let's see if I can share my screen again. I guess I'm gonna try to move us through the AI stuff sort of quickly, but I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that the AI work group released their AI guidebook a few weeks ago. They have a section on environmental impact that I don't, I mean, one thing is for us to like look at this and provide some suggestions specifically on the language that they released. Um, for instance, there's things in here about how, data centers will be operating regardless of whether our staff and students use them, which I have some beef with. But I think that there's opportunities for us to kind of share specific feedback with the AI work group. And I wanted to make sure that everybody at least got a chance to look at the section that they have on environmental impact. At the bottom of the guidebook, it has an opportunity to share feedback. So that's something that people on the committee or maybe the few people on YouTube that are watching this can know that that's there and available for sharing feedback. And I think they're soliciting it. So I'm going to, instead of going through each individual one, these are the AI recommendations that the work group, the few people, so is Alma, Murtaza, um, I don't know who else was on it.
America.
America. Great. Was there anybody else? Okay. Thank you all for working on these. I think they're wonderful. I wanted to just make sure that everybody got a chance to read them and to see if there's anything else we wanted to add to them before we move on. I need to go close the door for some soundproofing in my in my house. So if anybody wants to jump in and share any thoughts, or if anybody from the work group wants to say anything about it, please do, and I'll be right back.
Wow, did we really do all of that? That looks pretty cool.
Sorry about that. Maybe everybody is reading.
I think it's great that we're standing ground on the accountability. As you mentioned a few minutes ago about it, them saying or the guidebook saying that, well, it's here regardless. I think public opinion and pressure can change along the way things are done and maybe just move innovation forward to make these centers less environmentally, more environmentally friendly. But it's going to take our voices and sticking our ground.
I wanted to share just like one bit of information that I learned, which was that, oh, I just didn't see your hand, Curtis, but maybe I'll just finish my thought really fast, which was just that the AI work group said when we had them a joint meeting with them, they had said that we had asked for data on AI usage on district computers, and as of now, they said they don't have a way to track that, but they are looking into methods to do that. Oh yeah, Curtis, did you see one?
Yes, you all are amazing. This is such a cool set of recommendations, first off. I have a question about the third paragraph. And if this is not in the scope of my role, you obviously do not have to take this. But what I was wondering about adding language to technology contracts, I really like that. And I'm curious if the vision is for any contractor that uses technology, or is this about student technology or any contract of a technology service that we obtain? Because I know that in general school district operations, we are using all sorts of relationships with contractors and outside groups. And are you all trying to find out if they are using AI?
I'm not really well versed on how contracts work or anything like that. But from my perspective, the purpose of that aspect of the recommendations was to try to get people to think about the AI impact of contracting with specific companies um, before they make the contract official, if that makes sense. So I think we were thinking like, if PBS were to like pick a specific AI company to partner with and to use in schools, like that they would look at the environmental impacts of that, but also just in general, like if they were gonna, partner with like something other than Canvas and it used AI, that we would just be keeping that in mind.
I see. Thank you so much, Alma.
America, did you have something to add to that?
Yes and no. I mean, when we talked about it, that was the general idea. And so it's all, so that's I just wanted to ditto on that. And the thing that I kind of wanted to talk about was it's kind of like the before and after effect as well. Like, but really, you just want to get people to start thinking about it and know that there's AI out there and that there's something that we can do about it. And if we don't track it or put it in a contract, it can go by the wayside. And that's what we don't want it to do. So it's just, yeah.
Anybody else have any other thoughts about the language that's written here?
I think I just wanted to offer, I was noodling on Curtis's question because it's a great question and it gets kind of to one of the challenging things about AI because there's the AI of utilizing it as a problem solving tool in the classroom. There's the AI of generating curriculum. There's the AI that's built into the software that our curriculum that we purchase uses. And so I think when I read this, I just wanted to share my feedback that initially I thought of it as like specifically the software contracts that we use, like Canvas or PeopleSoft or Zoom, and asking for some transparent. I read this as like, oh, we would be asking our contract with Zoom as a result requirement of that to provide information to us about whatever AI tools that they use. Because we know, like, for instance, Zoom, I think, is currently taking notes for me, for example. And just being so that I, as the climate justice advisor, could be more informed about what the carbon impact of those different technologies that they use, more as like a transparency statement. So I just appreciated the question because even the word, I mean, you can get into like what does technology mean? And there's so many things. So I just wanted to share feedback of from a staff perspective, like how that language landed for me, and my thought immediately is like software contracts specifically. But I think it's curious. I liked the question around like um, what different platforms that even other folks are using or how they're utilizing it in processing our data. Like if we're working with a evaluation firm, like having some transparency about what tools they're using now to process the work that anyway, so it's a complex web, but yeah, just wanted to share that process.
Does that lead us to want to change that language, or does that still feel like that the technology word is more all encompassing of what we're looking for?
From a staff perspective, I think that it's the appropriate language to use. I just wanted to share that like those are some of the questions that might come up when people are looking on like how to comply with this kind of recommendation. So I still think technology is a good word personally, but yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Kat. Awesome. All right, wonderful. Well, I'm really grateful for everyone creating these recommendations. And I guess what I'll do is I'll move us forward then on the next question that I had was where we're going with these. So this was my thought process, and I'd love to hear other people's thoughts. So I was thinking that we would share those recommendations directly back with the AI governance work group. And I think specifically we can ask for how that one recommendation we have around our kind of continued collaboration. We could discuss the opportunities for either somebody from the CCRC to be engaged on the AI work group or an annual meeting. I think those were the two suggestions we had. Eddie Wong said that he would be happy to put us on a future board meeting so that we could share our recommendations, which I think it would behoove us to just have more touch points with the school board. And I think it makes sense for us to go and share these recommendations so that it can be kind of like on the record that we're thinking about this. And then a discussion around like, incorporating, maybe we want to incorporate some of these recommendations into the future, into the policy when it's up for review, just so that policy becomes like a living, breathing document of the times. I'd love to hear people's thoughts on those recommendations and if you agree or have other ideas.
I agree. I think especially incorporating this into our CCRP and being more visible to the board meetings and such. And in saying that, I am also stating that I'm willing to be one of the people that helps to attend those meetings. It's that if I'm going to say we should be there, I'm willing to be one of the people on that list.
That was going to be my next question. So thank you, Shannon. I'll put your name down. Yeah, America.
So I think you nailed it when you said that we need more touch points, because if we don't have those touch points, people will forget, and I don't want them to forget. So I agree with that. And I also like the fact that we can incorporate some AI usage language into the policy. I think that's really cool.
Great, thank you. Barbie, Jane, Murtaza, any thoughts?
I agree with the thoughts already expressed, especially about incorporating the 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 usage impact into the policy. I think that's important going forward.
I agree as well. I don't think there's anything to add. It's all been said well.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add either, and except I like just generally the idea of more transparency around this as we're all like kind of figuring out how to wrap our arms around AI usage. So no, I appreciate the work that folks have done to put forward these recommendations.
Great. Is there anybody else on the committee that would be interested in raising their hand to be to present to the board our recommendations? In addition to Shannon?
I do hope someone will show up with me. I'm less nervous then.
If it's possible to do it virtually, I can do it. I just can't do it on the 9th. I'll have to
Okay.
wait. Yeah, so my MBA program ends on the 15th, so preferably any time after that.
Great. Congratulations in advance. That's great. All right. Maybe what I'll do then is that's not the only meeting, so I can see if there's a meeting that's better, or I think that you could still join virtually.
Yeah,
See
I
what-
definitely try to show up as
Class.
well, but unfortunately, I can't guarantee at this point.
If
And
that's okay with you. Oh yeah.
I was just going to say I can also be there in attendance, but as I know we're still trying to figure out what my role looks like as a member or a supporter or an advocate on this committee. So I wasn't sure if that counted, but I will be there if you all are presenting.
Thanks, Curtis.
And just to clarify, are we talking about, I want to make sure I get this on my calendar. We're talking about this June 9th
That was
being
just that's the next general board meeting. There are other meetings. I can talk with Eddie. He said we could kind of choose which one we wanted to. There's other meetings that are for specific topics. So maybe there's one that would make more sense and work better for people's calendars. So why don't yeah.
I was just gonna say, could we have that information and see what the feedback is? How's that sound?
The information about the other meetings.
Yes, I'm sorry. Because I will make room to be there on the 9th if that's what it is. But what I'm wondering is what you said with if we know what the meetings are and what the topics are, and then seeing which one would be the best fit.
You got it. Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll follow up with Murtaza, Shannon, America, and Curtis, looking at the different meetings, and we'll see which one is going to be the best fit. I'm definitely will be there as well, but I would just love it if other people were talking since I did the last meeting, so that they know we have multiple voices to share.
Absolutely, I can completely empathize and understand that.
That's great. No, thank you all.
Sorry,
I
I couldn't make the
appreciate it.
last one.
No, not at all. And I hope people heard that Murtaza showed up, which was so we're really grateful for him being there, so that we could kind of show that we have more than my face there. So thank you for that. But great. All right, I'm going to move us on to our next topic. So we already kind of covered some of this at the beginning of the meeting. Just thinking about CCRC planning for next year. So 2 adults, 2 student representatives, maybe more if we can. Kat's gonna get us the application that we can send out to folks and to our networks. This is my just thought that if we can schedule the orientation for new members to be like kind of in August or early September. One of the suggestions we had made in our annual report was that we wanted to get folks onboarded sooner. So that's something, Curtis, maybe we can work on to see if we can get folks up and moving a little bit more quickly and get our first meeting on the calendar maybe in late September, early October. I think our first actual quarterly meeting this year was in November. And then something we also talked about in our annual report was hoping that Curtis, to add something to your list, which sounds like you're already on top of it, is utilizing the decarbonization tool, and then also the dashboard that Kat was talking about to kind of facilitate us, the committee, in receiving information about what's going on in the school district, so that we can yeah, understand what's going on better.
Yeah, we can absolutely connect and start working on this. I don't know if you all have my email address. I'll make sure that Kat and I get everyone in the loop, as I'm still pretty new.
Perfect. I'm sure we'll get it. And then here are the priorities that I had listed out from our discussions this year. So our priorities about those two tools, and making sure that we are kind of pushing to ensure that we have that transparency with the community at large, and also for us as a committee. AI recommendation follow through to make sure that we continue that. I'm realizing that we should also add the student survey to this list. Engagement in the CCRP policy review process. Kat, maybe if you want to talk a little bit about that and what you're thinking.
Yeah, so I put together, I, again, full transparency, I'm not entirely sure how the policy review process works, but I have tried to let leadership be very aware that March of 2027 will be 5 years since the policy passed. And so we should be prepared to have a big kind of celebration, and also a very comprehensive report. And if the policy is going to go through any changes, having a really robust community engagement portion of that, I think, is really important, especially if it's able to align with that 5-year anniversary. So just to provide that kind of context of the things I've been trying to advocate for. I'm not, like I said, I'm not entirely sure what the process is, but I do know that there's other pretty massive community engagement sessions happening through the fall around the growing grade schools right sizing process. And so one of the recommendations I've had is that if it is going to go through policy review, that this committee gets to be informed at like the first meeting of what that process is like, and what needs to happen for it, and how recommendations are made, and then has the fall to have a few meetings to work with the staff liaison, to kind of talk with different staff and key contractors who've been involved in actually like implementing the policy scope of what has like gone well since the policy has passed, and what things maybe have been missed or could be added, or could be like, just make it something that's more achievable, or more, I don't like using the words achievable or realistic in this case. Example being that, like, it says no fossil fuel infrastructure can be invested, but like we don't have a good option for Bunsen burners yet. So there's like a little bit of gas that's going to the new high schools until we find out a good alternative for Bunsen burners. But you just got to have them so like that's an example of like, I think it's worth calling out things like that in the policy, so that we're being transparent about what's going on. And then having the CCRC engage the community more deeply and getting feedback on that process of the like recommendations in the spring. So, yeah, I think I'm not sure if that answered your question of like kind of, or helped provide any context of where I was thinking, what I'm recommending in terms of like the staff timeline of engagement with the committee around the policy review. But I'm hopeful that Eddie will be able to provide some more clear, tangible guidance on what kinds of things that like the policy review committee would be looking for or needing in order to actually like make official changes.
Thank you for laying that groundwork for us, Kat. I really appreciate you advocating on behalf of the policy and the committee to make sure that we can, have the time to understand the process. I'll add it to my list to follow up with Eddie, and I think like Michelle to pass to to make sure that they know. Maybe one of them can, maybe they could share that at one of our CCRC meetings so that we can understand what's going on. Okay. I'd also put on here increased communication with PPS board given the decreased capacity within the climate justice and sustainability team. I do think that it was really wonderful to have Eddie Wong join our meetings this year as much as he could. And I had really wished I had more capacity to make sure that we could have more of a dialogue with the board. So I, yeah, I think there was an idea to share maybe some like takeaways from our meeting that we would write up and he would share it at his next meeting, and that's something we could try to bring into the next committee year. But if anybody has any other thoughts, um, I mean, I also think there's opportunities for us to do what we're doing and, go present at the AI recommendations and maybe the student survey results. Yeah, Alma.
This is just a small thing and it could be worked into the new policy if we're going to make changes, or it could just be something we start doing. But the policy says to report to the board at least once a year. And we've been doing this like report at the end of the year. And I think maybe like for ease of communication, either instead of the report or in addition to the report, it could be helpful to do like a paragraph about what we talked about for every committee meeting and send that on to the board through Eddie Wang. Even if it just went out in an email to everyone, if there was just a more concise and more regular communication, um, that could be helpful.
I totally agree. I think it would be wonderful for them to hear us more often. Um, and it would facilitate us not having this big crunch at the end of the year to write the annual report, or just facilitate it maybe more easily if we had it all kind of in paragraphs. Kat, I'm wondering can you tell us a little bit about I know that you utilize our annual report from the CCRC and incorporate it into your planning. Um, Hopefully moving forward, that will still be the case. But as far as the board usage of it, like, do you see any opportunities for us to like tweak it or make it more digestible or more impactful?
It's a good question. I think being able to have the student survey data earlier on and be able to compare that will help have recommendations in the annual report that center student wellness and lived experience and agency and literacy. So I think being able to tie the recommendations to the overall mission at PPS is always really important and helpful, which I think is done really, I think it's done implicitly and it's done well. But I think sometimes for newer leadership, it can be really helpful to have it really clearly like laid out of like, here's how this is impacting students directly. Here's where our recommendations are. That would be one thing. And then the other thing that I found to be really helpful from listening to the CBRC meeting last night, the Community Budget Review Committee. They have a completely different, huge scope. They get to there's a community committee that reviews the entire board book, budgets, and everything. So it's pretty wild. But the work that they get to do. Something that I thought I found being helpful from listening to the board feedback on their recommendation was being able to have them. This is where the dashboard's going to come in handy, right? Like being able to say like, here's exactly what has been done, and here's like, love this. Also need to do more of that. In the first 2 years, that was something the CCRC was able to really the first year of this committee and this work, I put together a very comprehensive, like first, laying the land of the world report. And the committee made some pretty like strong recommendations that said, hey, look, good job, but also we're not making progress fast enough to reach our goals. And I think that like strong language and that actually like helped, continue to have this at the forefront. So yeah, I think like we have been making good progress, which is amazing. So being able to see I think since the board's role is to oversee the budget and to provide guidance to the superintendent, kind of thinking about the recommendations from that perspective of like what is our leadership team or our superintendent or our overall kind of resource allocation need to hear to be able to incorporate this work to be successful alongside the overall mission of achieving student outcomes. Um, yeah, I was that I think it's been hard because of the lack of being able to provide that tangible information this year. So I would say I think the report this year was great. And I think but in terms of like moving forward, what could be helpful for a priority for thinking about next year and how to engage with the data and the work and the board, just kind of top of mind, remembering the board's role of allocating resources and directing leadership could be helpful in how you approach the updates.
That was extremely helpful, Kat. Thank you. Yeah, and I saw that, Kat, that you had put in the chat that maybe disseminating the student survey in January or February, and then that would give us enough time to make sure that we analyze the data. And I really appreciate that, just like student-centered focus. And yeah, I think the the budget committee, did they say they had like a tracking document where it's like they had a recommendation and then they tracked if it was achieved or not? Like it seemed like a very another dashboard of some sort, but some way to track.
I think they did say they had a pretty comprehensive tracking tool or yeah, that they use. And I know like committee members can't meet with their committees as a group unless it's publicly noticed, but can like committee members from different committees meet as like a group? Like, could you meet with one of the representatives from like that's something that if I could kind of transition my work here and get to keep doing stuff, it would be like being able to form those like connections because they've got some really cool tools and stuff that they use in their committee, their community oversight committee that I think could be applied to this committee. But like the staff internally haven't even been like connected to like help disseminate that knowledge. So just how to like better connect these different groups, I think would be really, really cool. Because that's something we talked about last night too, is I was thinking like, oh, it'd be really helpful to not only see the budget broken down by general fund and other funding, but also how different priorities are funded, how much money have we put towards climate work, for instance. Like that's something I don't have like access to calculating with the resources I have at the moment, but thinking about how these different committees can work kind of in tangent would be really interesting. Ah, yes, cross-pollinating community oversight committees.
Yeah. As you said that, Kat, I think also in my tired brain from last night, was there a suggestion from one of the board directors about us being engaged in the like right sizing conversation? Did I dream that?
You did not dream that. So that's something that we're hoping that the decarbonization roadmap can help with. And also a perspective I've been something we've talked about is that we have these like multi-million-dollar grants for infrastructure, and also we're going through a process of like potentially, reducing schools. And so making sure that we're allocating the funding in a way that's going to be helpful, but also I think what Director DePass was getting at was being thoughtful about like um, what communities the different schools are that are serving, of course, and then also like how can we really, if we're going to have a reduced portfolio, how can we really invest in that portfolio to be really advancing the climate goals and creating like resilience hubs and things like that? That's something she and I have talked about before. But that's just to put a little seed there of future potential things to be involved with. I think learning more about that scope could be something that the CCRC could have someone come and talk about, is like the Growing Great School scope, because there is a real overlap of increasing enrollment. What are the projects and opportunities at different schools that students might be drawn to? and at neighborhood schools. What is like the, age and building structures and all the different things that we're looking at schools. And also just wanted to plant the seed that Monica Fleischer, who was the sustainability programs manager, is actually on the strategic project management team and is like the project manager for Growing Great Schools. Like she's the central support. So she's got obviously like a really great, wonderful perspective to be able to offer and could likely speak to the committee about how it all kind of overlaps in the fall when they've gotten further down the road in this community engagement process. But yeah, that's like something that the committee has done in the past is had um, executive leadership come and provide just like presentations and overviews on like the budget crisis impact, what happened, what's going on, how does this impact our work, just to better understand large strategic initiatives at the district. And that's something that, like, for instance, with that right sizing initiative, I could see that being a topic in the fall that the committee has somebody come in just to like as part of their engagement kind of roundtable series.
Thanks for that suggestion. That would be great. Yeah, I remember when we had the budget conversation last year, that was really, really helpful.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to plant a seed with is that as I'm speaking, I'm realizing that as the staff liaison to this group, reporting to the chief of staff, I was very informed and like aware of a lot of these strategic initiatives. And now that the staff liaisoning will be in a different department and not reporting to a chief, I think that that's something that the CCRC can keep in mind in terms of advocating for like just transparency and leadership engagement with the committee's work, because I'm not sure. Yeah, just like how it can be really hard to, I'm like in the middle of everything with my positioning right now. So just making sure that um, systems awareness is still being provided as a valued service to this committee to be able to better do the work that you all are charged with doing.
Absolutely. Thanks for thinking about that. That's something that we wouldn't be aware of. So thank you. Are there other priorities that people have been thinking of that, or especially like Jane and Barbie and Alma that are heading out into the sunset to stay engaged with us, but or anybody else on the committee that they want to throw in here so that we have kind of our list of to-dos for the beginning of next year?
I think you've covered things. I was gonna mention about the policy, the policy update work, and just share my experience in developing the policy in the first place. Obviously, that was a different process to start from scratch and build a policy, but that took 3 years, and it even updating it. I think I love Kat's comments about like go to the first meeting, get their overview. Of course, the committee's changed. There's different directors, and their process is going to be different. But I think it's might be like a heavier lift than some folks might expect to even update that in terms of like time and effort. And there was really extensive community involvement in developing a policy in the first place. And I just want to echo what Kat said about the importance of that community engagement. And I don't know. So it's just something to keep in mind when you're like prioritizing what the committee can tackle and how much capacity everyone has, that like how important are those policy updates compared to like keeping on doing work kind of thing. And I'm not suggesting that I'm going to weigh in on like that, but just it will be a bit intensive, I think, whoever wants to lead that update. And while I have the mic, I also want to say thank you so much to Alyssa for being a fabulous chair this year. You've honestly done such a wonderful job. And yeah, I don't know what the process is for, I just it's been a delight to be on the board with you, serving as chair. Yeah, and then I won't say goodbye to Kat just yet.
Thank you so much for that, Jane. I really appreciate it. So, especially coming from a previous chair member. And thanks so much for I think I didn't actually digest the fact that it took 3 years for the policy to be written. It makes so much sense that it would have taken that long. But I think that's really smart to be mindful of our capacity and just to recognize how much time that would take and to ensure that it's done well. I was going to actually, you talking about me as the chair, I wanted folks to know that I am more than willing to let somebody else take on the chair role next year if they are interested in it. I'm also happy to stay on as chair for one more year, but I would feel like zero negative emotions if somebody was interested in taking on the role. I will say it has been a pleasure, and I feel like I've learned a lot just taking on this role. So if there's anyone that's staying on that's interested in taking it on, maybe speak now. Or if anybody wants to, any interest? No.
As a first year person or just closing out my first year, I'd like to get a little more ground under my feet before I came in on something like that. But thank you.
Totally understand.
Maybe next year.
Yeah. Great, Shannon. Yeah. Well, I'm happy to stay
You did
on.
such a great job. I would love for you to just continue with it. You're a hard act to follow.
Too kind, too kind. Yeah, no, I am happy to stay on, but if anybody, yeah, I don't want to also like deny anybody the opportunity. So, maybe, maybe after the following year. All right. Well, my last slide here is a thank you to Kat. So, I already embarrassed Kat in front of the board of directors last night by like gushing about just like how much gratitude I have for Kat and taking on this role, and just that we have, I mean, I could take it all the way to like my gratitude for the earth that my children were inherit because of Kat's effort at the school district, and for inspiring other school districts to take on this work because of their leadership. But yeah, Kat, you're going to be so missed.
That is the sweetest thing I've ever heard. Thank you.
Would love to second that motion. This is Barbie. I'm sorry I'm driving. And I didn't get to jump in. I would love to suggest a vice chair role. What a great opportunity to learn as you're growing in your understanding of the policy and the work of the committee. And I too think that Alyssa is doing an amazing job, and I'm gonna miss the committee. I'm gonna miss working with Kat and getting to learn so much. Again, I think the best compliment that I've heard all day is Alyssa, because I would say that the earth is gonna be better, but also more importantly, I think our community is better. I think my son gets to live in a better world with better people because of Kat. So thank you.
Kat, I want to say thank you to you also. Having gotten to work alongside you for 4 years, you've done such a fabulous job just jumping into this role as a new role, new policy, and just figuring it out. So thank you for all your hard work, and I want to wish you the best in whatever your path, wherever your path takes you next. And would happy to, you alluded this before for Barbie, but like if you need some more recommendations on LinkedIn or whatever it is, I'm around. But thank you, Kat, and good luck with your next steps.
I would love to get coffee with anyone on this committee who wants to continue the conversations and relationships beyond the scope. I moved to Portland for this role, and it has become my home. I love this area, and it feels like home. I've moved a lot of places in my life, and this one feels right. So I intend to stick around and be, a nuisance in other ways, and keep things moving forward. And I say to do any kind of systems change work, you have to be tenacious and patient and hopelessly optimistic. So I'm just curious to see where we get to go with this. I'm so tickled that we have a Curtis here to get to hand some work off to, and that I get to stay in this area to be a continued support from other area like perspectives with that, because yeah, not having, for one, not having the energy and sustainability role filled when leaving would be really hard. But also just knowing that, like, I think I really lean into fire ecology, and this happens when it's like for no new, after fire, new growth can happen. And so I think that there's been a lot of huge shifts and change and disruption at the district, and that there's like a real opportunity with that for some new growth and some fresh perspectives and everything to be able to come up from it. So just really eager to see where it goes. And yeah, I'll be around. So definitely would love to connect. And yeah, just thank you all for your kind words. It's very, very sweet. And I feel incredibly honored that I now have like 2 publicly recorded meetings of people gushing about my work. It's pretty cool. So very few people get that. So thank you so much for the, very sweet send off.
For those future jobs, you just send them to YouTube.
Yeah. I'll be like, just ignore the ones where I'm like trying to get my camera to work,
Exactly.
and just like look at the nice little cute clips.
And they can meet your cats.
Yeah, my cats that are be preserved in public records for the next 100 years. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, everyone. I'm grateful for this year and this committee and for all the work that's been done. And yeah, we'll follow up with everything we're going to follow up with before Kat leaves. And Curtis, thanks for being on the team. And great to see everyone. Take care. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you all for having me. It was a privilege.
Thanks, Curtis.
Thank you, everyone, so much.